Okay, today we're going to be talking about literal equations. And really, the word literal is kind of a fancy name for an equation that has a bunch of letters. Now, here's a couple of equations that I think you guys should all be familiar with. The area of a trapezoid, 1/2 the height, times base 1, base 2, perimeter of a triangle. And what we're going to try to do with the literal equations are we're going to solve it for a specific letter. So maybe instead of solving it for A in this point, you could solve it for H or one of the bases. Okay, so let me show you. And it's really pretty simple. It's kind of like doing an algebra problem. You're going to do all the steps as you would an algebra problem. Okay, but it's just going to be a bunch of letters. So for instance, if I was to solve for x here, of course, you would add 3, right? So 9 and 3 would be 12, right? Okay, now, let's go over to the problem with a bunch of letters, right? If I'm going to solve for m, you would do the same thing you would do here, is you would add r, right? Now, you know that p and r are different variables, so you can't add them, so your equation would look like this, right? P plus r. Okay. Now, going back to the algebra equation, now if you solve for x, then you're going to do the division property, right? Divide 2. And you're going to get x. Okay, 2 goes into 12 6 times. Now, if you're solving for m, right, if this is multiplication, well, you do the division property with this, right? And you would divide out the a, and then they would cancel, right? And you would be left with p plus r equals a, or there's a different way to write this, or you could write it and distribute out the letter on the bottom. So that could be p over a plus r over a. So each way, any way you write it would be correct. All right, let's take a look at a couple more here. So now let's take a look at the perimeter we were talking about a second ago. Okay. Again, formulas that you're going to use in geometry, right? We're solving for W. All right, so we're going to get W by itself. So to get W by itself, first of all, I would subtract 2L from both sides, right? Okay, now again, P and 2L are two different things, right? So let's rewrite it. So I'm going to have P minus 2L, right? Now what would I do? Well, I want to get rid of the 2 to get W by itself, so I'm going to divide, right? And then I'm going to be left with P minus 2L over 2, or, now this is important, because remember what we talked about when you're distributing with division, so we'll do it over here. You could also write it like this, P over 2 minus 2L over 2. So again, I'm distributing the 2. And what you'll notice is the 2's here actually cancel out. So you are left with P over 2 minus L. Okay, and that would be our final answer. All right. Let's take a look at this problem. The area of a trapezoid, which we were talking about a second ago, we are solving for B1, right? Okay. So the first thing I want to do, is I want to get rid of that 2. So if I'm going to get rid of a fraction, I'm going to basically multiply by the reciprocal, or just multiply by 2, right? And the 2's cancel. Whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So they'll have 2a equals a half times b1 plus b2. Now, instead of distributing that h, what I could do is I could divide it out, right? H's cancel. So I'm going to have b1 base 1 plus base 2 is going to equal 2a over the height. All right, so now I want to get rid of b2. So I will subtract b2 from both sides, right? Cancels. So let's see what I'm left with. So I have 2a over h minus base 2 equals base 1. So again, if I wanted to set up a problem and I had all the information but the base 1, I could plug in all the numbers real quickly and get it. So this is kind of the advantage of changing the formula around. All right. Let's look at a couple more here. All right. Volume of a circular cone. I'm sure you've seen these problems before, or these formulas, I mean. All right, so we're going to get R by itself, right? So just like in the previous problem, I'm going to get rid of the fraction first by multiplying both sides by 3, which is going to cancel that out. So I have pi times r squared times the height equals 3 times the volume. Now again, this is all a multiplication problem, so if I want to get rid of pi, I would divide it. And also if I wanted to get rid of the height, I would divide it, right? And they would cancel. So let's go ahead and do that on the other side, right? Let's see what we got left. We got r squared equals 3v pi times the height. Now, the opposite of a square would be the square root, right? So I'm going to square root both sides. And by square rooting r squared, it's going to leave me with just r, which I wanted, right? And then I'm going to have 3v over pi. And then I am done, right? Got r by itself. All right, now, last problem. Let's play around. We're going to try to find out what math is. Okay, solve for math. Well, let's see. So if I use my cross multiplication skills, okay, m times a times t times h equals e w m a s o e. Now, you did a little play on the words here. You will get math is or equals 3v. 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 3v Awesome. All right. Good job.